Namaste, everybody. This is about education. And I have, all my life, I only know education. I don't know anything else. When I was 8 years old, my father bought me a slate. In those times, see, I'm in my 80s. So I'm talking about almost 75 years ago, or 72 years ago. I was 8 years old, and my father said, here is a slate and here is a chalk. And then he brought another 25 of those and said, go and teach the children of the workers. So since 8 years old, I have been only teaching. And those children were workers' children who were, 12, 13, 14, so they were all older to me. So when I started my career, and I started with management people, they were all about 10 to 15 years older than me. Now my sister has a story to tell that I was teaching khota, but I was hitting real. वो ती झूठ पढ़ाते थे और सच्ची मारते थे. So my sisters also, my siblings also used to come and sit in the class because I was good in English, I was good in Hindi, I was good in arithmetic. All I knew, learned from school, modernized school, I taught them, my workers' children, on Thursdays and Sundays from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. That was, so I only know education. All my life I have been in education. When I started seriously thinking, what is really education? Education is the soul of the culture. Now, see, you can't see the soul. Just as much we cannot say this is culture, this is culture, this is culture. But if the education system is not connected with the culture of our society, it does not take roots. It cannot, if we are teaching something which is not related to the culture in any way, it will not take roots. And what does not take roots is not sustainable, because it will blow with the wind, it will blow with the storm, and it will get uprooted very quickly. So if you see, our Indian culture over the years has been completely eroded because we have not rooted it in our culture. Even in our schools today, we teach wrong history of our culture. And we give wrong meanings of the philosophy of life which we lived at once upon a time. And therefore, and at that point of time, I've read a lot about Vedic schooling of our culture. And it is very much similar to what is required today, which is diverse in nature, which is holistic in nature, and which provides these young students opportunity to delve and meander and wander into many areas of life to discover what they like best. Now, if I look back in my times, in the 8 decades that I have been on this planet, the students have changed, our country has changed, but our education has not changed. Our education is rooted in an alien culture which was imposed on us for some reasons and for some purpose. It was their purpose, it was not our purpose. So we have to look at education, its philosophy, its purpose, and what is the meaning of education which we are having today. So we have to be relevant for today, but we have to be rooted. And therefore, it has to go through many transformations. Now, we don't review. I'm not sure whether even my IIM has not reviewed its curriculum for many years. Unless we review the education in the context of the culture, in the context of the students, and the generation which is growing up, and the environment which is occurring. Now, in the era of the technology, we really cannot teach how the bicycles are made. We have to teach how supersonic jets are made. So we have to change, keep changing, keep reviewing, and keep redefining the education, as well as by looking at the students and not by the adults sitting in one room deciding what should be taught. We need to talk to the young students, and we tell the students are like this and the students are like that. Once when I was giving a talk or in a conference like this, some of the students came after the talk and said, "Ma'am, can we ask you a question?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Ma'am, are we so bad? Are we so bad that you have to keep saying that children have to be transformed?" Nobody is asking us what is happening to us. And I think that is the issue. If we have to design curriculum, we have to ask the students. About 2 years ago, we had a conclave in TCS on leadership. And we interviewed, or at least I had a group of panel discussion of 14-year-old to 22-year-old. And I was amazed to see what they were saying. They were saying they want to learn many, many new things, and they want to learn, and not just rote and repeat. So they are interested in learning, and when I said learning means what? They said, "Ma'am, learning means experience. Learning means activities. Learning means going outside and discovering the skies, discovering the ocean, discovering the forest, discovering a desert." They want an experience-based learning and not just a knowledge-based. See, education has knowledge, and knowledge, of course, has to be learned. So one has to distribute what percentage of knowledge-based learning, what percentage of experience-based learning, and what percentage of experiential-based learning. Now, experiential-based learning is very different from experience-based learning, because the experiential-based learning is rooted in the spirituality of the culture and our heritage. If we can include, and this we have completely denied in our education system from the time the British came. From the colonized time, our education has become so colonialized that we've forgotten our spirituality, we've forgotten our philosophy, we've forgotten our values, we've forgotten our social upbringing, our families, and we have blindly followed and believed, and this is what we were made to believe. It was kind of stuffed into us by Danda or by whatever, that what comes from the West is the correct answers. And I think we have to discover inside out. That is why I have named my institution Antardisha, that we need to give directions from within what makes sense to us, what makes sense to our generation, what makes sense in our culture. So if we can identify the parameters of our culture and then connect our education, have a portion of our education into the philosophy and spirituality of our heritage, it will make a lot more sense to our students. Now, I introduced a course called Discover India program in FLAME. Discover India program was to look at the heritage of the culture in 3 ways. One, they had to identify what is the heritage. 2, they had to discover a research methodology. 3, they had to discover go to the place and interview the oldest people in that place and the youngest people in that place. Why that place is called heritage and what makes it so relevant and meaningful to our Indian psyche. And then they were supposed to write a report which was a creative report. So they could write an essay, they could write a poem, they could write a story, they could write. And the second was what was their experiencing being in that heritage part of the country. And believe me, the students were so enamored and they came back so lively and proud of their culture that they said, "My God, we had so much in our country." And they came in, and that course is now a hit. And many international students come to FLAME only to take part of that course, Cultural Discover India program. And Discover India is not tourism, it is to discover the philosophy and the spirituality of that part, the purpose and the meaning why that place is heritage. I also had the opposite. We need to learn both, teach our students both. The developmental activity program. we can criticize our country no end. And if we ask our young people, write positives of the country, they will struggle with the answer. But if we tell them to write the negatives, they will write 100 negatives, they will write it. But one has to teach the students, why is there the negatives? Was the country like this before? No, the country was not like this before. The country was known for something else, and therefore all the invaders came to take away what was part of our culture. And they took away so much, and they destroyed so much, and they destroyed our psyche. The worst thing the colonials have done is to destroy our psyche of being proud of being who we are. This education must make the students proud of belonging, their heritage, proud of their country, proud of being a citizen, and inculcating what they can discover and add from their side to make the country better and relevant for the times. I'm not saying we only go back to the past and do what was in the past. It won't work. We have to be rooted in our heritage and discover what is relevant and meaningful today. Now, our young students, we are very good in science. Nobody tells us this. We are very good in maths, and you let the students, and we made the students afraid of maths. And that is the worst thing we have done. And those individuals have done well when they grow up is those who are good in maths. Economics require, almost all subjects require maths. And we have lost the touch or the sensitivity of the cultural strength that we had in maths. Because everybody knows that 0 was given by India. So if we put in some emphasis in education, the sustainability will only come if it is rooted. You see, you can grow tall if you are rooted. You can't grow tall if you are not so rooted and you are kind of shaky in the earth. So my basic philosophy is that you need to be rooted in the culture and then grow tall, so tall that you can have a whole worldview of the universe and be able to inculcate some of the attitudes, the spiritual learnings, which would make you feel strong, proud, courageous, and contribute not only to your own life, but to be good citizens of the country, good members of the family, and create a worldview which is uniquely yours. So I think my time is up. like to stick to my time. I'd like to thank Raju for creating this setting of education and making it possible for these issues to be discussed so that transformations can come in education to make it relevant and meaningful for the times. All of you are from education, so I hope it has made sense to you, and thank you very much for listening to me. Raju, thank you so much for starting all this.